Is U.S. President Barack Obama a puppet, with someone pulling his strings and controlling his moves? Webster Tarpley thinks so. The noted scholar, author, and radio host is here to talk to us about that today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You have your own theory on how it is that the new U.S. president came into power. Could you explain it for us?
Well, to get right to the heart of the matter, if we look at recent U.S. presidents, we would have to conclude that Obama is the most controlled by Wall Street banking interests that we've seen in recent memory, maybe in the last 100 years. He may represent an all-time high in Wall Street banking and financier control over the U.S. presidency. We will find that about $13 trillion of Federal Reserve money and U.S. Treasury money have gone to Wall Street. Anything that's got to do with finance gets top priority. Compare that to the Detroit automakers. They have been driven into bankruptcy and are now being broken up. It's the dictatorship of finance capital, if you will, and really unprecedented. I think that's one of the reasons that there's a backlash against Obama, because many of these other interests are being completely sacrificed. I would also say this goes back quite a ways. My finding in terms of Obama's biography is that he was probably recruited by people like Zbigniew Brzezinski and Samuel Huntington when they were all at or near Columbia University in 1981 and 1982. So that Obama has been groomed over a long period of time.
Well, you say that he's been groomed for a long time. This has been coming. Why did they choose Barack Obama as the candidate? Did they know that this was going to work?
I think the idea is to prevent others from seizing the presidency and to make sure that there was a pliable puppet in the White House at this point to do precisely what the financiers wanted and not be pulled in other directions by all of those other interest groups. I would say over a period of time, people like Brzezinski, David Rockefeller, the Tri-lateral Commission, and these are all simply organizations of Wall Street bankers under different names. They groom politicians so that when a crisis arrives, they have a number of politicians ready to go that they can put into action. And Obama's one of these. In other words, it's not like they chose Obama 25 years ago to be president, but he was part of a larger group among whom they thought that they might eventually choose a president.
That's exactly what I wanted to ask, is the public during a campaign, they vote for their president, and they came out in hordes and voted for Barack Obama, but they don't have any say when it comes to choosing the president's advisors, his political cabinet. What do you think that means for democracy? I
think democracy right now is in a grave crisis. Let me just also point out, Obama did not get a landslide at all. He got 52% of the vote. He's largely a beneficiary of the hatred of George Bush the Younger, which in many ways is understandable. But it doesn't mean that there's a great popular mandate for Obama to do anything. The problem is now the cynical manipulation, and it starts, of course, with the U.S. media. People wondered, why did the media hate Hillary Clinton, and why did they choose Obama? And I think the main explanation is all of those media are owned by Wall Street. And Obama is simply the unity candidate of the entire financier elite of the top U.S. money center banks.
And do you think that Obama, however, is worse than the Bush administration?
I think he's more dangerous in this way. With Bush, you had a brutal, open imperialist. And his brutality was expressed in very frank terms. He'd say, bring it on, or dead or alive.
I've said this before, I understand.
With Obama, it's very different. Obama operates with deception, with trickery, with dissembling, with mass duping of the population. You can even call it mass brainwashing. The other difference is that with the neocons had the elementary cunning of a bully, which was to pick on states that were largely defenseless, like Iraq or Afghanistan. Very, very limited ability to strike back. When you get now to the Obama group, I would say this group is more adventurous, more insane strategically, and also better able to conceal what they're actually doing. The idea now is a kind of imperialism that plays other countries one against the other, while the U.S. remains, they think, unengaged. And I think that's the danger you see with proxies like Georgia or Poland or others. and now the question of Iran. And what is the project of Iran? If you look at Obama's speech in Cairo, it seems to me that the goal of Obama's Cairo speech is to play the Arab and Islamic world against China, cutting off Chinese oil, cutting off access to raw materials, and indeed against Russia, right? Some idea of some conflict between Iran and Russia that might eventually emerge.
Right now, there's all this hype, though, about resetting the relationship with Russia, and so you don't think it's sincere in any way?
I would invite Obama to do the following. If you want to reset the relation, make a public announcement that there will be no Polish missile crisis, that there will be no ABM missiles installed in Poland, and indeed that there will be no NATO expansion to Ukraine and Georgia. This is very simple. What is the point of this relentless, provocative pushing of NATO right up to the doorstep and into the front yard and then into the living room? It makes absolutely no sense.
Now, to talk about the current economic crisis, in many ways you predicted that this was going to happen, and you speak a lot about derivatives. Can you tell us